2024 has been a very horrific year, and I'm not talking about the political landscape. I'm talking about the horror movies, and I want to rank all 37 of the ones I saw this year. Let's get into it. Welcome to the Cinefanatics. My name is Robert Adams, and yeah, like I said, today I'm going to rank all 37 brand new horror movies that I saw in 2024. Before I get started, let me know your thoughts, feelings, and opinions down below in the comments. What was your favorite? What do you think of my list? Is there anything I left off? I know I didn't see all the movies. There are some that I've seen on other people's lists that I just did not get an opportunity to see. Let me know your thoughts about those movies down below in the comments. While we are talking about movies that you've seen, that I've seen, please keep in mind, these are all my opinions. This is how I connect with these movies. I want to know how you connect with these movies. We all have opinions on art that is coming from like our experience and like what we are into, what our interests are. I don't expect you to have the same opinions that I do. Let me know yours down below in the comments. Also, I'm going to try to run through 37 movies. That's a lot of movies. This may be a long video. I don't know. I just turned the camera on and started filming, as you could possibly tell. So I don't know how long this video is going to be as of yet. Some of these I'm just going to give like little bits of information and move on. If you want to know my full thoughts, a lot of these movies I probably have like a full review. Some of them may have spoilers, whatnot, somewhere on this channel. So if you want to know more about those movies, please feel free to subscribe to Cinefanatics and go find the movie that you want me to expand on, that you want to hear my full thoughts on. Everything that you're wanting to hear is probably in that video. This is going to be a quick, simple video, so like I said, let's jump into this. At number 37, The Mousetrap. Fuck this movie. Number 36, The Crow. The problem with this movie is about 85% of it is dealing with Eric Draven and Shelley's relationship and how he feels about the relationship and whatnot and all that. Yeah, that's not what the original movie was all about. Like within the first 5 minutes, we learn about his relationship. Shelley gets killed. He comes back to life. We as the audience, we understand the stakes. We know what's going on. We get to enjoy the thrill ride of the original 94 movie where he is basically getting revenge on everyone who wronged him. We don't get that in this movie. We don't get anything close to that until like the final like 10-15 minutes of this movie. Otherwise, most of this movie is like, I'm sad, my girlfriend's dead. I didn't want to see that. I want to see the fun. I want to see the revenge, not the romantic, just That's why this movie tanked, and that's why it's at number 36. Number 35, Imaginary. This is a movie about a killer imaginary friend, but it surprisingly doesn't have much imagination to it. This could have been a great idea and joined the ranks of, like, say, Chucky or Megan as, like, some childhood fantasy or toy or something that could have lent itself to be something more spectacular and bigger, possibly even a franchise. But it doesn't explore anything of interest. It just falters and goes into like weird like dream maze imaginary, just it did not stick the landing, and therefore it just kills the entire vibe of this movie. Number 34, The Rule of Jenny Penn. Speaking of puppets and dolls and childhood playthings, John Lithgow does an amazing job in this movie. Unfortunately, as what will probably happen throughout this ranking, there's no answers. This doesn't go anywhere. Why is he doing what he's doing? Like, is he controlled by the puppet? What's the deal with this puppet? No answers? Cool. Number 33, Little Bites. And speaking of no answers, I had high hopes for this. On paper, this sounds like it was fantastic. Chrissy Fox plays a single mother who seemingly has a vampire living in her basement closet that feeds off of her. It's got a fantastic cast, including Barbara Crampton and Heather Langenkamp, both horror royalty. You've got a fantastic performance by Chaz Bono, and even a very good blink and you miss it cameo from some of my favorite YouTubers, James and Chelsea from Dead Meat. It has a fantastic premise directed by Spider-1 from Power Man 5000, and I was super eager going into this. Just didn't stick the landing. I saw this at Fantastic Fest sitting next to Cody Leach, and we get to like the final 2 minutes of this movie and it just collapses. And both of us are sitting there like, the fuck was that? Like, we had no clue what happens in this movie, and that kills the entire movie for me. I wish it could have been better. Number 32, Blink Twice. This was a fun movie. It has a great cast. It just gets a little convoluted at the end. This is the type of movie that I would say is a prime example of why you need those ending explained YouTube videos. This could have been great, fantastic cast, but the ending was kind of bonkers, and it just made it kind of a mess. So, number 31, Never Let Go. The only thing that is saving this movie for me is a twist that happens maybe a little over halfway or so. Without that twist, which really like grabbed my attention and made me focus like from then on, before that, this movie just felt like kind of a Bird Box ripoff, and I don't mean that in a positive way. Number 30, I Saw the TV Glow. I get it, I know before I even watched this movie, there's a meaning, there's allegory to the story. It is not lost on me. My problem with this is it felt like it hung on to that allegory a little too much and forgot to be an entertaining movie, a movie that we're kicking on to be enthralled by. It just felt so slow and dull and depressing for me. I compare this to the original and somewhat the remake of Dawn of the Dead. It was an allegory for consumerism, and it was very heavy-handed in that. But it was also a very entertaining, straightforward zombie flick that even if you don't care about the message, or for some reason you're not picking up on the message, you are still entertained by what is happening in that movie. This was missing that. I get that not everyone shares this opinion on this movie, and I completely understand why some people rank it high. I'm not disparaging anyone's thoughts, feelings, and opinions about this movie. I just don't feel that same way. Number 29, Werewolves. It's The Purge with werewolves. They even pulled Frank Grillo from The Purge to come over and join them for this movie. It's a fun idea. The transformation effects were CGI, which is kind of a letdown. I'm a big fan of the practical effects from like American Werewolf in London. And unfortunately, some of the practical costumes for the werewolves didn't look that much better than the practical costume of Razor from... Razor? From Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, The Secret of the Ooze. Back from when I was a kid, my favorite Ninja Turtles movie, live action. Number 28, House of Spoils. Two things I absolutely love: horror movies and cooking. Unfortunately, this movie can't stick to either one as a central theme. It's a cooking movie that deals with witches and haunted ingredients, and it really can't merge the two together effectively. I do, however, have full confidence that this movie could boil water. Number 27, Apartment 7A. Surprisingly, this prequel to Rosemary's Baby, it's a decent movie. And that's kind of weird, seeing this is coming from the same place as last year's Pet Sematary prequel. Just, ugh. Really, the only bad things about this movie is the pacing is a little slow, and this movie kind of feels more like a remake of Rosemary's Baby, and not so much a prequel to Rosemary's Baby. But it does a good job. Number 26, Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2. Yep, here it comes. Still not a great movie, but a massive improvement over the first one. Remember what I said about that stupid Mousetrap movie at the top of this ranking? That was kind of what I expected this to land at as well, and surprisingly, it's not the lowest movie on this list. So while I'm not extremely excited for any other movies in the Poohniverse, feel like that shouldn't be a word said by any adult with common sense or a grasp of the English language. My expectations are a little bit better now, which should be a win for the filmmakers. Number 25, Mr. Crockett. Interesting premise, but it seems like the filmmakers just really needed to make a couple of more passes on the script before sending it out. Elements of this movie just seem out of place, like Mr. Crockett is typically killing abusive parents, but the lead woman that we're following, she's not an abusive parent. She's a struggling single mother. There's no reason for a demented interdimensional being like Mr. Crockett to be going after her. It just doesn't feel right. Number 24, Mads. This is a fantastic idea for a movie. Problem is I didn't know that before seeing it. I thought this was just gonna be a zombie movie in one take, but it is so much more than that. It's actually following 3 different people as they become infected with the zombie virus. And keep in mind, this is all in one take. Had I known that before watching this, I probably would have enjoyed it a little bit more. I didn't know the people that we were following, what they were doing until they started slowly becoming zombies. I was like, I get it. We're watching their mental process and their physical body deteriorating to become a zombie. I mean, this is going to be a great watch for a second time. It'll almost feel like I'm watching it for the first time. Number 23, VHS Beyond. These VHS films are extremely hit or miss for me. Also, I'm not a huge fan of found footage movies. The skydiving and the stork segments are probably the most interesting parts of this movie for me. I highly recommend this if you are a fan of the VHS series and you would just like to see a little sci-fi mixed in. Number 22, Y2K. What if the entire world just went to crap with that Y2K bug? It's a great premise with a decent cast, but it feels like first-time director Kyle Mooney is just trying to do too much instead of just keeping it simple. Everything just has to be a joke or quirky, and when everything is a joke, nothing is a joke. And that's how this movie feels, just Number 21, Trap. Obviously, not one of Shyamalan's bests. The premise is so absurd, the plot conveniences are so forced, I can't take this movie seriously. I would have preferred maybe a little more research into real life, what law enforcement would do to trap a serial killer like they're doing in this movie, because I feel like nothing in this movie is in the real world. Nothing is logical, nothing makes sense. It's fine for the little fantasy that it's in, sure, but otherwise, ugh. Number 20, Night Bitch. Very similar to I Saw the TV Glow, this movie has a message that unfortunately I don't feel like the trailers or some of the posters were able to convey. It's more about watching a mother struggle with motherhood than it is anything supernaturally about turning into the shaggy dog. Shout out to my sister though, she does a phenomenal job. Number 19, Heretic. Superb work by Hugh Grant. I definitely would not mind seeing him get an Oscar nomination for playing against type, such a quirky yet creepy character. The only issue with this is the religious argument is kind of simple to understand if you are someone who is already religiously inclined, like you already understand the concepts that are being shown in this movie. The whole conversation, the argument is just kind of a small, simple one. This will give you very intriguing questions if you are not already religious, or at least a part of like the primary religions that this movie does talk about. For me, I grew up in the church, so I have some concepts, some ideas of understanding what this movie is presenting, and I think a lot of the questions and stuff that is presented is just very simple, and if I really knew the Bible a little bit better, I could probably point to a couple of verses that just answers most of this. So it's great if you're not ultimately religious. I can see why people would be enthralled by what this is presenting, but for those of you that are, it's not going to really show you anything new, and you're already going to know all the answers. So yeah, plus the ending and third act gets a little weird. Number 18, Longlegs. I know a lot of people have this like at the very top of their list, and I have it at number 18. Again, everyone's opinions and what their connections and experiences are. This is a very slow burn of a movie. It's very reminiscent of Silence of the Lambs, which I know everyone is making that comparison. Oz Perkins does a phenomenal job of creating such a creepy environment that Nicolas Cage can really just get lost in. He is completely unrecognizable as Longlegs. I cannot wait for Oz Perkins' follow-up to this, which is The Monkey that's coming out this year. Hopefully, it's going to be really good. Number 17, The First Omen. This is another one of those, like a legacy prequel, sequel, whatever, that I just was not expecting to be that good. Granted, this is not my favorite of the two heavily religious pregnancy movies that came out this year. Like, it's surprising how many horror movies dealt with pregnancy this year. It's astounding how many we got, but out of the two major ones that deal with religion, this is my least favorite of the two, which is funny because I see most people saying that they prefer this one over the other one, which I will get to here in a little bit. Ultimately, this does still serve as a solid horror flick, even if some of the Omen lore is just kind of ignored and not explained, which that was a little weird, but c'est la vie. Number 16, Bone Lake. What if two people, or in this case, couples, book the same exact Airbnb for a weekend getaway? No, this is not Barbarian. And while it doesn't twist and turn like Barbarian does, it does have a few surprises to it. Some of which you can see coming, some of which you can't. Other than what I've said here, do go into this movie knowing as little as possible. Like Barbarian. Number 15, In a Violent Nature. Yes, I know, everyone complains about how slow this movie is. We are watching it from the point of view of a slow-walking killer. That being said, I was hooked into the premise of this movie. Pun definitely intended. Plus, the gore is top level. In fact, it's actually almost reaching Terrifier levels. It's great. It's basically you're watching Friday the 13th from Jason's perspective. I'd like to see this fleshed out in the sequels, like from other locations. Maybe he tries to take Manhattan, or on a boat on the way to Manhattan, or even outer space. There's an idea. Number 14, Immaculate. So this was the better of the two religious-based pregnancy movies this year for me. Sydney Sweeney does an amazing job of being put through the ringer in this, which is fantastic if you are familiar, if you've read about how she self-produced this movie from a script that she was committed to from way back in the day. Plus, that final scene in this movie is one of the most shockingly brutal scenes I have seen in a horror movie lately, and that's including the Terrifier franchise. Number 13, Lisa Frankenstein. It is the return of a Diablo Cody screenplay. Teamed with Zelda Williams and a silly storyline makes this a fun, deemed to be cult classic movie. Catherine Newton and Cole Sprouse do a great job of leading a fantastic cast. It does borderline on the absurd a little more than I would like, but it's still overall fun. Number 12, Cuckoo. What a bonkers movie. This could be one of those more popular, elevated horror movies that necessitate a multiple viewing to really grasp what's happening in this movie. Best thing going for it is it does have some stellar performances by Hunter Schafer and Dan Stevens. Plus it has some quality jump scares. Number 11, Maxine. And now we return to the world of Ty West's X. While Maxine is a great follow-up to X and Pearl, I don't feel like it hits quite as hard as those previous two movies. Especially when you get to the third act and it's revealed as to who's doing all the murders, it just kind of feels like a letdown instead of some shocking surprise that Maxine is going to have to deal with. Number 10, A Quiet Place, Day 1. I loved getting away from the Abbott family and showing us how others around the world are having to deal with the alien invasion, namely New York City. Just as thrilling as the previous movies, without the use of Reagan's cochlear implant, this movie is more about surviving than it is about defeating the aliens. And for the sake of my ranking, thank God the cat lives through this. Spoilers, sorry. Number 9, Nosferatu. Robert Eggers delivers another powerful and visually stunning film. I love how his movies get into these lofty ideas and interpretation that are actually very straightforward. The acting and set design continue to be the standouts from his movie. Just unfortunately, I'm not much of a vampire fan, hence why this is a little bit lower than I feel like most people are putting on their list. But I will tell you once and for all, that mustache is glorious. Highly recommend. Number 8, Ick. No hidden meanings, nothing that you have to think about. Ick is just a simple alien plant life taking over a small town, and Brandon Routh has to defend it. All the while, the ADHD-laden audience is rocking out to late 90s, early 2000s pop-punk soundtrack, which is amazing. It is a live-action cartoon, and it is the very definition of turn your brain off and just enjoy a movie. Number 7, Speak No Evil. And yet another horror movie that would benefit from not watching the trailers. I have seen the original 2022 Danish film, and they are similar, but I do like the way that this remake does the ending. It's a lot more satisfying and visceral. Also, extremely top-tier performance by James McAvoy in this movie. This is how you do a remake right. Number 6, Alien Romulus. I had high hopes for the latest in the Alien franchise, and for the most part, my hopes were satisfied. Fede Alvarez does a great job of cementing this firmly within the same world that we are used to with the Alien franchise. My only issues, other than the two main characters, was that the other alien characters, I don't know who they are, and I don't care. Plus, that ending got a little bit too Alien Resurrection for my liking. Number 5, Abigail. If Radio Silence is ever making a horror film, I will be seated for it. As I said earlier, vampire flicks just really aren't my thing, but for the most part, this is an outstanding cast.
I got him!
Sammy, those are fucking onions.
Well...
The scene where Melissa Barrera's Joey is reading all of the other characters is easily the standout scene from this movie, in my opinion. Well, that and all the blood that the set gets absolutely drenched in. This is a fantastically fun film. It is definitely a must-watch. Number 4, Terrifier 3. Alright, anyone who has been following this channel for at least the past couple of years probably knows my opinion of the Terrifier series. This is what I look for in a horror movie. Good story, gory practical effects, great characters, and I love a good low-budget grunge feel. Terrifier is perfect. This year I got to meet most of the cast, and I single-handedly got Damien Leone to announce that he is delivering us Terrifier 4. Even if it was blatantly obvious anyways. My only issue with this movie is the editing. I've actually seen other people say this as well. That final fight scene with Sienna. It feels like she's dreaming again, but nope, we're actually in that final scene. Other than that, long live Art the Clown. Before I get into the top 3 again, let me know your thoughts, feelings, and opinions down below in the comments. If you're liking my opinions on this so far, make sure you hit that like button. Or because you just like the way I have this video set up, I don't know, like this video and let me know your thoughts in the comments. On to number 3. Which number 3 is Smile 2. Bigger and better. This movie took every single positive aspect from the first movie and improved on it. More kills, gorier kills, larger story and world building. Characters I actually care about. One of the greatest horror movie intros I've seen in a long time, and I have no idea how the hell are you going to fix what happens at the end of this movie in a third one. Apparently, we're going to find out though. Also, one of the few movies that actually got me in the jump scare department. That's extremely rare. Number 2, Strange Darling. I actually saw this over a year ago at Fantastic Fest 2023. It was about halfway through the festival. I was tired. I was watching about 4 to 5 movies per day. And this movie starts with a chapter card that says like chapter 3 or chapter 4 or something like that. And I'm like, oh, great. This is going to be one of those movies that I got to focus and pay attention, yada, yada, yada. Woo, boy, I was wrong. Director J.T. Molnar and cinematographer Giovanni Ribisi, yes, that Giovanni Ribisi, spun together an amazing film that, again, other than what I'm saying about this movie right now, right here, you don't want to know jack shit about this film. Treat yourself and go watch Strange Darling. Number 1, The Substance. As no surprise, this movie is topping almost every single list I see of horror movies of 2024, and for good reason. I love director Coralie Farge's Revenge, and I'm also a huge fan of body horror, so when I heard about this movie and it's starring Demi Moore, I was immediately hooked. I saw this movie the night before Fantastic Fest started this year, and it pretty much blows away all the movies I saw at the festival. The Substance is a ride that goes from okay to what the f*** is going on here? There is a reason why this movie is topping horror lists. It is the best horror film of 2024, hands down. Anyways, that is my ranking of all 37 horror movies I saw this year. Again, I didn't get to see all of them. There's a couple of them missing, The Watchers, Oddity. Some others I may eventually catch up on. Apparently there's been a remake of Street Trash that I didn't know about, so I want to see that too. So let me know your thoughts and feelings and opinions of what I ranked and what I missed ranking down below in the comments. While you're down there, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. Come follow us on social media. We are at The Cinefanatics on Twitter and Instagram and TikTok. You can follow me personally at RCA Reacts on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, and also youtube.com/@RCA Reacts. That's going to do it for this ranking. Thank you for watching. I will see you on the next one. A good night.